We all noticed that without using a gooseneck kettle, this kind of thin stream of water is relatively hard to maintain. And just dumping out water like this is a lot easier. This kettle's pretty huge. It's got a relatively large spout, but you can still do this. You can still maintain a really thin column. You can see this though, also the water can roll on the spout. Spouts aren't necessarily designed to prevent that. But even with like a water bottle like this, I can either dump the water out really fast, or I could do this really thin line, this thin stream. To some degree, it's a little bit harder, obviously. I didn't understand at first, why do people go for this really thin stream? What's the purpose? The aesthetics certainly seem secondary. A concentrated and small stream of water hitting the outside of the pot gradually is actually a lot more effective at heating the pot than one large splash. Especially when the splash of water actually takes a lot less time overall. A tall pour like this cools the water too much, and you can see here how the stream is actually cut off toward one part of the circular motion. This is the beginner tendency, and also what I see very commonly in majority of Western brewing. So a lot more forcing the water into the pot as quickly as possible, which creates a sort of dumping effect. Kind of like when I dump this bowl of water without any splashes because I made a space there on the chaozhou. Dumping, or a much more controlled stream, something you can actually do with cups also. Another interesting technique that I really don't see all that much in the Western world for some reason. There are all sorts of applications for this kind of controlled stream of water. And I really don't think people discuss it all that much because it's just such an inherent part of the whole activity. Just like how cup rolling is oftentimes mistaken as a cleaning-only function in the Western world, when it actually serves a very careful heating function in order to not let the aromatic volatiles condense on the outside of the cup, which is something that I think people notice more only after they've practiced it. You can see making this column is also a good thing if you're trying to keep this heat chain where you're heating the cups and then you're using that excess heat on the pot because it'd be kind of a waste not to. There's enough Western focus on teapots to understand clearly that this pouring style doesn't really seem to work very well. I've immediately added too much angle. Even in this way, there's too much angle right off the bat. Almost always pouring with a much shallower angle at first, and then waiting to tilt the pot is much more effective. As you can see, there's less gurgle. The stream remains relatively laminar. Almost never any gurgling or clogging, regardless of the filter type. And also, this isn't even a nice pot. It's super cheap. I love low-risk practice like this. It's incredibly low risk, and I can do this for as long as I want, just playing with the water, playing with pour types. And this kind of thing I'm just surprised that people don't do more often. Pouring a kettle only comes naturally to people who grew up doing it all the time. And I don't think people grow up doing this really precise pour. Even with Gongfu, you can still get the same very precise pour rather than dumping.